This is Meltdown Live, presented by MyBookie.ag. Use code NEXTROUND at MyBookie.ag for double your initial deposit. You sign on to make a deposit, they double it with code NEXTROUND at MyBookie.ag. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. MyBookie.ag.
We proudly welcome you in right here to the Culver studio for another edition of Meltdown Live. I am Tim Melton. Joining me here in studio, a cast of characters that you know, a cast of characters that you love, a cast of characters that you should make sure you hit that subscribe button to so you never miss when they're in studio, including Tyler, Lionel, Johns. Tyler, how is your Thursday, or as some call it in the chat, Friday Eve, treating you today?
It was going well. It was going well. We're remembering Gene Hackman today, and then later on, I got hit again with the teaser trailer for Shrek 5.
Yeah,
Looks absolutely abysmal. Oh my gosh,
I
I
have
want
not
to
seen
punch
this.
Donkey off the table right now.
What's wrong with it, Tyler?
It looks like it was made by AI. They redesigned every character, so Donkey does not look like this anymore. No, he looks like thinner, wiry, like
Okay.
more cartoonish in a way.
How do you mess up the Shrek characters when there's such a history of...
Exactly. DreamWorks got all of this critical acclaim and financial success from Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and they said, "Why don't we just not do any of that? Why don't we not make the characters look like the ones that everyone knows and loves?" And we have these abominations reacting to a Shrek TikTok video because, of course, it's a family movie in 2025. We've got to have TikTok, YouTube meme jokes.
It looks fake. I mean, I'm looking at some of the
Thank
still
you, Tim.
images
Oh
here.
my gosh.
Yeah, that's real. That's really what they did. Yeah, Universal Pictures
Yeah.
put this out.
Yeah. And if anyone has not seen it, just know that Universal has already turned off the comments for their video. So they
yikes.
know it's a stinker too.
What have they done?
Yeah.
Okay,
I want to punch Donkey off the table right now.
I'm with you. Whoever made this was not a donkey. They were a jackass. Okay, I'm sorry.
It's a better
This
joke
looks
than
awful.
anything in that teaser trailer.
Thank you, and that's a very low bar. Ush is here in studio with us. Ush, I know it's always tough to maybe sit back and not jump in on the Shrek hate, but I don't see you as being that big of a Shrek fan.
Correct.
Am I wrong?
But a big Gene Hackman fan, and I sent you a photo of Gene Hackman and I 20 years ago, 2005. I've been running to Gene Hackman in a pharmacy in Louisville.
Oh, that was you in that photo.
That is me. Yeah, me and Gene Hackman.
I was like, why is Ush sending me a random picture of some dude that I don't recognize with Gene Hackman?
Yeah, it's
You ever
me.
get that? You ever get told like, you don't look like yourself? There?
No, not really.
No, you don't. Okay, I'll let the audience judge. We have
You can
the photo there.
throw that up
Tyler's gonna
there,
throw it up.
but top 10 for sure actor for me. Made everything he was in better. This sounds kind of weird. I'm getting Chris Benoit vibes on the story.
Really?
Well, I don't know. They're all dead. Him, wife, and dog. They found all three of them.
Yeah. So I mean,
He's like 30 years older than his wife. I don't know.
but I don't know. It's definitely they've come out. It started early with potential carbon monoxide,
Yeah.
and then it developed into, well, this could be more suspicious.
Right.
And then you start to hear details of the way they were found in the house, and it's very strange. All of it is very
Right.
strange, but I have no idea what took place in that house. I know that it was like, a full day that they were in there before they were found. A neighbor needed a welfare check done
Yeah.
because they were concerned. They found him, and she was in the bathroom, and he was like in the hall or something. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like,
So,
and then two of the dogs survived. So
I'm going to hold off on full-fledged tribute, but the art will always stand like it always does. And I wanted to know if you two had a few favorite Gene Hackman performances that come to mind.
for sure, if I was going, just top, like for me, a lot of people are going to throw out French Connection. A lot of people are going to throw out Crimson Tide. For me, I have a little bit more of an eclectic version of Gene Hackman that I like. Okay, and these are ones that hit me at the right time. But I loved him as the coach in The Replacements with
Wow.
Keanu Reeves.
Okay.
I loved him in Hoosiers, obviously, where he plays a more seminal coach there.
Norman Dale.
I love Poseidon Adventure.
Okay.
The Poseidon Adventure with him in there is an incredible movie experience. I would love to own that one on physical media. I have all the Poseidon remake movies, but I want this one. And then for me, the top of the mountain is Superman with him
Yeah.
playing Lex Luthor in Superman and in Superman 2. So that would be where I'm at with my fandom. For you personally, Ush, like what are the movies that jump to the top of
Well,
your
you
list?
gotta like Wes Anderson for this. He's absolutely brilliant in Royal Tenenbaums, which is one of my favorite comedies. And it has a tremendous cast, but he's the best character in the show, in the movie. I love him in a couple of westerns. One for which he won the Oscar in Unforgiven, which is a at the least top 5 western of all time, maybe a top 3. It could be the best western of all time, and he's tremendous in that. But also in The Quick and the Dead, which is an underrated western, and Sharon Stone, a young Leonardo DiCaprio, Russell Crowe, and he's fantastic in that as well. He's great in The Firm. There's a lot of different um, roles. It's Norman Dale, Hoosiers, sports movies. There's way more bad sports movies than good sports movies. Hoosiers is an actual great movie,
It
and
is.
far and away the greatest movie about basketball.
I'll have to think about that one.
I'm gonna
It's
go Air Bud.
Yeah,
oh, I may take Space
toss
Jam.
up.
Space.
Yeah,
I may take Space
Yeah,
Jam.
Space Jam. Yeah, I'd go Space Jam.
Okay, so I've convinced Tyler to change, but Space Jam is kind of a big deal
I'd
to.
put Blue Chips above both of those.
Oh
Actually.
no.
Yeah.
Uh, Tyler, Gene Hackman, any movies that you feel connected to when you look at his filmography? I just recently watched Get Shorty for the very first
Yeah,
time
there
a
you
couple
go.
of weeks ago. It was pulled out of our mystery box, part of the Shelby County Library System. Which
Yes,
I
you're
looked into
welcome.
that, and they were all thrown out. So I've
Okay.
done the homework for you there at
Good.
the Mish. But yeah, he was great in Get Shorty. Tyler, any other movies that you want to bring to the table here?
Not particularly. He's not an actor that I haven't seen a ton of his filmography, and then also the ones I have seen are movies I'm not particularly crazy about.
Yeah.
I like French Connection, but if I'm going with like old movies from that era, I'd probably be more likely to go with like Chinatown,
Sure.
Jack Nicholson. Um, if we're talking his role in Ants, I prefer Bug's Life, and so it's an issue of the movies I've seen with him. Like he's great, but
Yeah.
they're not my cup of tea.
You didn't like 2004's Welcome to Mooseport alongside Ray Romano?
So it's
Can't
his
say
last movie.
can't say I've seen it.
Is that really his last
Yeah,
movie? I'm thinking back. I'm thinking, yeah.
he got out. He didn't come back.
No,
Wrote books. Was on I think a book tour in Louisville when I met him.
yeah. Tell me more about your meeting with Gene Hackman because he was already somebody that you really liked as an actor, and then you
Yeah.
meet him. Were you starstruck and just absolutely giddy?
Yes, I'm gonna bother. Not 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna go ahead and bother the celebrity.
I'm the opposite.
Yeah, I know. You just talked about that. I'm gonna bother him. I'm
Okay.
gonna. I don't want I don't. Never been into autographs.
Yeah.
But I want a picture and just to shake their hand and tell them something.
He was kind.
Yeah, he was kind. He was in the like orthopedic aisle of the pharmacy. Just random walked in. There he was. I was like, "That's Gene Hackman." And my
What
wife's
about that
like,
for a
"Don't bother him." I was like, "Too late. Come take a picture." Poor phone quality back then, but the picture still stands.
We have the picture up on the stream,
Yeah,
and
it's me. That looks like me,
that
right?
does not
Tyler?
look like
See,
you.
okay. So Tim said like, "Oh, this doesn't look like Ush." I said, "That's Ush's smile."
Yeah, thank you for recognizing that. The smile always comes out. It's 20 years ago.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not being. This
Yeah.
isn't. I'm not trying to be hypercritical. I would never know that that was you. If you were, I was telling Tyler, if you had been on a episode of Unsolved Mysteries, I wouldn't have known to turn you in
I
because
don't understand. Like, I'm bald. I have facial hair. I have glasses. I'm portly.
to me,
Like, what is the difference?
to me, that's not the Ush I know. And
Okay.
it kind of, you have a different head shape even in that photo, in my opinion. But I mean, I don't know. I'm going to leave it up to
I'm
the
a little
chat.
more svelte than I was then.
I think
More in
you've
shape.
aged gracefully, is
Thank
what
you
I'm
very
saying.
much.
Yes.
Much like Gene Hackman
But
did.
all I can think is that Gene Hackman is needing some sort of ointment, and a young, fresh faced Ush is tracking him down, going,
Yeah. You're going to get this picture first, and then you can deal with your feet.
exactly. But you don't recall anything else from, like you said, you
No, it was brief. He was friendly. He smiles in the picture, took the picture, and that was it. It wasn't an ongoing conversation. I
Right.
got to meet a lot I think for an average person, I've got to meet a lot of celebrities.
name drop some.
Um, Willie Nelson, my favorite singer, Willie Nelson.
Were you on his bus?
I was.
Whoa.
I can provide that picture as well.
Wow. We know what,
Very nice.
we know what happens on Willie's
We
bus.
do. The smell was in the air.
It's like opening up a DVD box.
I met Willie Nelson. I met John Fogerty. I've met Charles Barkley. I've met Dale Murphy, George Brett, Kirby Smart, all that through here.
You ever met a complete jerk where it's like they just come across cold, they don't have time for you, get out of my way,
No,
you're a peasant, that sort
no,
of thing? Nothing?
no.
Okay, well that's good because not a lot of not everyone has those celebrity
I know.
encounters that are perfect.
I would have
Tyler met Flava Flav.
I would have been crushed if Willie wouldn't have been nice, but he was the nicest of all of them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
He also didn't know where he was at
That
the time.
tracks.
Yeah.
He's very mellow.
He is very mellow. It was right after a show. It was a great show. This was 2002. Yeah, that was a big moment for me.
That's awesome. Well, once again, there seems to be calls for more investigation into this.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like it's just the sort of a closed case here from the get. So we'll see what happens with this Gene Hackman story. But I was shocked to wake up and see this type of tragedy that, regardless of whatever the outcome is of what caused this, it's a tragedy.
It causes me to utter a sentence I didn't think I'd ever utter, in that I hope it was carbon monoxide.
I mean, I think a lot of people are feeling that.
Never expected to say that before.
I think a lot of people are feeling that, but a very strange situation, and one hopefully we'll have more answers on as the week and weekend progresses. But once again, Gene Hackman looked at as one of the greats. Clint Eastwood came out with a tribute today that was very nice, talking about his friend and how great he was on screen. And, in my professional opinion, I know a lot of people will turn to maybe Smallville or some other iteration of the character, but for me, him as Lex Luthor, I mean, it's
I agree.
just like
When I think Lex Luthor, I think of Gene Hackman.
I do too. And, there's a chance that Nicholas Hoult takes that torch and runs with it and becomes like the man when it comes to Lex Luthor and the way he's looked at when that movie releases in July. But Gene Hackman was like this perfect balance of like sinister and charming and, smart, but also evil.
And he was an A-list guy at the time of the movie came out, and I may have gotten top billing. I don't know if wasn't Christopher Reeve,
I
which is
actually-
not as well known. May have been Marlon Brando, honestly, who's not
Yeah.
in it very much. But I mean, he was the biggest current star
Yeah.
in that movie at the time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. He was towards the height of his powers there and continued to progress with roles that would become cherished by film fans. I had given you a task
Yes.
a couple of days ago of wanting you to come up with a list of who you believe are the greatest action stars of all time. Now, I know that Gene Hackman is one of your favorite actors of all time, and he's sort of like the intellectuals
Yes.
action star. I mean, he did a
He's
little
in
bit of
some
action.
things.
He's in some
Enemy of the
action movies.
State with Will Smith. You can maybe call an action movie.
But I would assume he's not on this list of the 5 that you
Correct.
narrowed down.
And in the text, the word "your" was all caps.
Correct.
So it's going to have a very personal thing. So a lot of people before my time would not be on the list. It's not an exhaustive, comprehensive list, but I did have criteria in mind coming up with it as well.
So you know what this means, Tim? No criticizing his list.
Oh, I
no,
can
no,
crit-
no,
no.
no, no bashing it.
No, see, Tyler feels hurt.
I think you're going to like
know
my
you were
list.
hurt.
I don't think that it's going to completely match what your list would be, but I do think that you're going to like it.
I have impassioned pleas for why someone should be considered, maybe, or at least I want to know why they weren't considered. And I will constantly ask those questions. Now, nobody's list is wrong. Everyone has their own list. It's all subjective. But if you can't back up your own list, if I feel like you can't back up your own list, I'm gonna take a few bites. I'm gonna take a few slashes there and see if you can fight back. So I'm just telling you, buckle up, Ush. Go ahead. You want to physically buckle up right now on camera?
Yeah.
Okay.
Double.
Okay, that's
Triple.
good. Triple buckled up. Let's go ahead and get to the number 5 spot of who you believe are the greatest movie action stars of all time. They're at number 5. Where are we starting on this list?
We're going to start with someone who is seminal in the term action star. And one of the first people that you would think of, and one of the people that set maybe some of the modern framework for that, and that's Sylvester Stallone. This is mainly on the strength of two big franchises, Rocky and Rambo. And the best representation of action star that I would give for Sylvester Stallone would be Rambo First Blood Part 2. It was a big, full-on action movie. First Blood is a much better movie. First Blood's a great movie, an all-time classic movie. So that's a better film. But Part 2 was what you see more that you know it would be parodied. He's got the headband and he's mowing. The death count is super high. It's big and there's tons of explosions. It's that big movie type action movie. It's like a prototypical action movie.
If I had more guts to be transparent, I would have put up on this list Stop or My Mom Will Shoot on my physical media board. The things that I would like.
I don't know why that wouldn't make it when some of the other things that did make
I
it.
get it.
Ernest Scared Stupid, Cop and a Half, Getting Even with Dad,
Stop or My Mom Will Shoot is
Surf
an
Ninjas.
awful movie.
Yeah.
Okay, some of those movies you named, they have some charm.
So he had a lot of peaks and valleys for sure in his career, and had some mishaps, and did other things. He did a couple of comedies, Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, Oscar, that weren't successful.
Oscar's a tough watch.
Came back with Cliffhanger, which was, so he's so well established with the Rocky franchise and Rambo. By the way, the Rocky franchise, one of those that we thought had such a bad ending with 5 being such a bad movie.
Awful.
Only to be redeemed with a very good, I think, Rocky 6, Rocky Balboa.
And there's a reason you look at Tyler, because Tyler loves that movie.
Yes, he does.
I think Tyler feels about Rocky Balboa the way I feel about Rocky 4. It just does something to just charge me up.
Well, now I love Rocky 4, and I go back to Rocky 4 way more often because that's just the most American movie you could ever watch. Rocky ended the Cold War, but his monologue in Rocky Balboa is inspirational.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when it saw in the theater and was so hopeful, and it really checked all those boxes. And I remember feeling relief when I walked out because it was so good. So you also have other movies outside of those franchises, a little bit here and there. Cliffhanger being one of them that stands out. But,
Copland.
well, I don't know if I'd call Copland an action movie as much. Copland to me is, first off, Copland is maybe a top 10 all-time movie for me. I think it's one of the most underrated movies of all time. I think it has one of the best casts of all time, and he's absolutely fantastic in it, holding his own with guys like Harvey Keitel and Robert De Niro and Ray Liotta. The cast is incredible in that movie, and it's a good story.
He put on some weight for that movie.
He
too.
did, and I think he maybe ended up a little bit regretting doing it, because it didn't get like he didn't win. It's not like he won an Oscar for it. It wasn't as big of a hit maybe as he was. So it's one of my favorite movies of all time. But Rocky 1 and 2 are great films. 2 is probably just as good as 1. And then in 3, you see it go into like full blown action movie
Oh yeah.
type thing, and it reaches that level, and then it only goes higher in 4.
Well,
Which is, if you're going to count like action movies of the Rocky franchise, that's the first one you're going to go to, featuring the greatest training montage of all time.
Rocky 1 is a 70s art house movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rocky 3 and Rocky 4 are like pulp 80s fanfare.
Yeah.
You know?
and I feel like 1 and 2 are very complimentary of each other.
Mhm.
But now training montage in 6 also very good.
Very good.
Underrated. Let's build some hurting bombs.
And
That's what he
he's
tells him.
great in Creed and Creed 2.
There you
And
go.
he's really, really good. So Sylvester Stallone, surprisingly though, at the number 5 spot. Now I haven't heard your list,
Yeah.
but I'm shocked he's at number 5, given that his resume alone, just the movies that have been just thrown out, named right here. I mean, Demolition Man was never mentioned, I don't
Yeah,
think.
Yeah, the
in all
chat
of this.
brings
Demolition
up
Man's a hit.
The chat brings up Demolition Man, Judge Dredd, and Cobra.
Oh, Cobra.
Cobra. Yeah.
Cobra, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, dirtbag cuts his pizza with scissors
Yeah.
in Cobra.
If that's not crazy, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to number 4. Who is ahead of Sylvester Stallone?
Number 4 was discussed extensively yesterday, and the day before on the show, and that is based on he's the only entry I have in the top 5 who is in the top 5 based on one role, and that is James Bond, Daniel Craig.
Wow. I didn't
think-
see that coming at all.
What a
I
shock.
think that first off, I like all of his James Bond movies. I'm not a big James Bond fan. I like all the Daniel Craig James Bond movies. Secondly, I think, my opinion only, that Casino Royale and Skyfall are about as good as it gets for action movies. They're super rewatchable. They're super fun. And he's great in it. And he's different enough from all the other James Bonds that came before and pulls it off so well. I think it feels, you guys know way more than I do, so y'all tell me if I'm on the right track. Those felt very Bourne Identity influenced in the style of the fight sequences.
So that is why they had to reboot the franchise. Is because Bourne was starting to kick Bond's ass.
Yeah.
I mean, like, just stylistically, it was night and day. You know, Pierce Brosnan felt stuck in time in the role, where it felt like he was playing almost an Adam West Batman type of Bond at later on in his run. And it wasn't Pierce Brosnan's fault. It was that the movies were made to be super cheesy.
Right.
And then
It's a different thing. It's a different type of movie.
Bourne comes in, and it's a completely different style of action movie. One that I don't think matters as much today as it did when it came out. I don't think those movies hold as much weight today as a lot of people maybe thought they would. But it no doubt re-energized the genre, and everybody wanted to create the next Bourne. And Bond, a legacy character, had to compete with that, and you definitely see shades of that in Casino Royale. You see it even more in Quantum of Solace, which is the follow-up, when he's doing like running out of windows and stuff.
Right.
And, jumping all over rooftops and Skyfall, and so you see Bourne elements in Bond, but they ended up just deciding, instead of getting eaten alive by our competition, we are going to adapt and become just as fierce as our competition. It was the right move.
How perfect is Casino Royale? It's perfect.
It's a perfect movie.
I love it. And you have everything. I agree with everything you said. You have the danger of coming off as a second-rate imitation. The casting was so important, and he wasn't a known guy, although he was an accomplished actor. He was in a lot of different things. You talked about that here on the Meltdown. It's like that casting was not met super positively, but he really won everyone over and ended up owning that
Yeah.
role and adding a different, because it had to be grittier. It had to be different than what we had seen before with James Bond, and it was, and it worked. But it's he was still James Bond,
You know what's
you know?
captivating about Casino Royale, is him having to change his tux multiple times
Yeah.
because it's got blood all over it. You know, like that hyper realism of like having to worry about every little detail as a spy where things are getting messy when you have the license to kill. And that movie addresses it in a way that I just didn't see Bond movies previously kind of going a step further than the trope, you know?
Yeah.
The shower scene
Yeah,
where he's in there comforting her once again, wasting another tuxedo on the night. How many tuxes does he have to go through?
a lot.
But I just thought that was a great. Initially in the script, it was supposed to be he was supposed to go in there and make love to her, and it changed to like I think it was his idea even of like, hey, in this moment, I should actually be in there just providing warmth because she's been through a traumatic experience. So
He's a good guy now.
yeah. Anyway,
He's a pretty good
I,
fella.
I'm shocked that you have Daniel Craig ahead of
And we'll
Sylvester
get into a
Stallone.
couple of the honorable mentions, and I'll kind of try to explain. I
Okay.
was shocked that I had
I'm
him.
shocked, but I'm glad you're living your truth.
I'm living my truth.
That's what's important. Let's move on to number 3.
Number 3 is the oldest on the list that goes back the furthest, and that's Clint Eastwood.
Mm.
Now, if you said favorite actor, Clint Eastwood maybe is at number 1 for me. But we're looking specifically at the action genre, and a lot of Clint Eastwood's action genre is also going to be in the Western genre, but not all of it, because you do have the Dirty Harry franchise, which I think is pretty seminal. You do have Escape from Alcatraz, which is a great movie, 1979, and then you had like even in my time, like In the Line of Fire, you know, which is I think 1993.
Mhm.
It's a great movie. So he continued making, good action movies later on, but um, the list of westerns alone would have got him into the list. So the ones that stand out to me the most, my favorite is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I've seen it as much as I've seen probably any movie, and it's loosely part of a trilogy. It's really not, but it's associated together with A Fistful of Dollars and For a Few Dollars More and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Outlaw Josie Wales would be my second favorite. It's a different, brutal type movie, honestly, in a lot of ways. Unforgiven is another one that really comes to mind, but there's other good ones. High Plains Drifter, Hang 'em High,
Dirty Harry?
and, well, that's what I mentioned, all that the non-Western and all the Dirty Harry movies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The first and the second one especially.
Gotcha. I mean, that movie was so popular, people just went into gun shops and just said,
Yeah.
"Can I get the Dirty Harry gun?"
Yeah.
That's all they wanted. Um, Tyler, Clint Eastwood, we've covered a movie of his in 2024 that was absolutely buried by Warner Brothers for some
Mhm.
reason because it's a quality movie. I don't know, Ush, if you've seen it streaming or whatnot, but almost everybody had to see it streaming because it had such a limited theatrical release. But it was Juror Number 2, which
Did not see that.
ended up being a sneaky good movie, and I think Ush would love it.
I do think this would be an Ush movie. It's a good courtroom drama, solid performances from Nicholas Hoult and J.K. Simmons, and just feels like a good return to 90s cinema.
It does. It feels like that 90s movie that used to get made and felt like it came out every weekend that now no longer exists, where
Yeah. Know exactly what you're talking about.
you've gotta you
That
gotta
then reruns forever on TNT or USA.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. This is that kind of movie.
bingo. I think you'd like it. Okay, Clint Eastwood there at the number 3 spot for greatest action stars of all time. Before we get into the top 2,
Yeah.
I'd like to get into who I believe are the greatest dentists of all time.
Oh.
And that is my friends over at Alabama Dental Associates. Make sure you reach out there to Dr. Jeff, Dr. Brian, and Dr. Nolan, all over at Alabama Dental Associates, located on Grants Mill Road. They provide you all sorts of services when it comes to staying on top of your dental health. Who knows? Maybe you have something going on and you're like, man, I keep putting it off. I keep needing to go to the dentist, but I don't know where to turn to. Turn to Alabama Dental Associates. They're going to help you. And then you can get in that routine of those regular cleanings to make sure that you are taking care of yourself the right way, they're at Alabama Dental. Maybe you're new in town, need to make sure you have a dentist on standby. Reach out and try Alabama Dental for yourself. They're accepting new patients now and can help you feel at ease about all of your upcoming dental procedures. For more information or to make an appointment, call them 205-956-8977 or visit alabamadental.com where they look forward to seeing you. All right, Ush, it has been a heck of a list so far. Some
Yeah.
heavy hitters. Where are we going for number 2?
Number
your list?
2 has, to me, the greatest quantity of quality action films, and has had the best second act. And that's Tom Cruise.
Ooh,
Tom Cruise, at one point, I remember thinking, this is like Katie Holmes couch jumping, talking about psychiatry with Matt Lauer, where Tom Cruise was it started to feel like his time has come to an end as being that, elite, top of the line A-list guy. He's weird. I don't think we really like him. And he's continued to put out, to me, in some ways, I don't have the emotional attachment to it because I didn't grow up with it like I would like a Star Wars or a Rocky, but in some ways, Mission Impossible is my favorite film franchise because I like every single one of them, which I can't say
Even
about something like Star Wars.
even Mission Impossible 2?
Yes.
Gosh, I hate that movie.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I like it. Now, it's not my favorite. And it's also another one, as great as that first one is, where the first one's not my favorite. And I feel like there are other ones along the way that are better
Can
than the
we
first
let's
one.
have a discussion here. You love the Mission Impossible movies.
Yes.
From what I've heard, it's just you just threw out it's potentially your favorite film franchise of all time.
Right.
Mission Impossible 3 is when I feel the franchise really gets started with Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Outstanding.
I love that movie.
It's great.
Everyone talks about 4, and I love 4. I think 4 is fantastic, and 4 is more like the modern version of Mission Impossible that we now have. That's when it really starts. 3 was the biggest swing, though, because the performance you get from Philip Seymour Hoffman in that, right out of the gate,
Yep.
tense, disturbing, violent, crazy.
You're 3 movies into this franchise, and I feel like that third one reset it.
J.J. Abrams behind that one. I
Yeah.
mean, completely reinvigorating the franchise, then setting up what is some spectacle that it all turned into how will Tom Cruise risk his life in this one?
Yeah.
It was always like, how does he up the stakes? And this latest trailer we've seen
Yeah.
for this final
Final Reckoning?
reckoning
Yeah.
looks like he's going to push it to the most extreme version possible, where he's
I
hanging off of planes
Yeah.
again, and he's supposedly there's an underwater sequence that's really intense, makes people feel very uncomfortable.
That would
So
make me feel uncomfortable. Um, Ghost Protocol is probably my favorite. It made me very uncomfortable. I'm afraid of heights. But I like the last one a lot, and the one before that I liked a lot. And you take out Mission Impossible, you still have both of the Top Gun movies. Top Gun Maverick was one of the most beloved movies in our country at a time when we needed a big movie to go to. And we had not been to the movies in a long time. And I just remember going, and it was one of those where you clap.
I
Yeah.
legitimately believe that Top Gun Maverick may have saved theaters overall.
It almost feels like it. And
May
it
have.
brought so many people together to just enjoy a movie. And it was everything you want in that kind of movie. It wasn't the greatest story of all time, but it wasn't stupid. It was a good story. The acting was good. Everything made sense. It knew exactly what it was trying to be. There was no winking involved in it or anything like that.
You know what
It
it
was very
was?
straightforward.
On a much more massive scale, but it was Rocky 4. It
Yeah.
was like just proud Americana coursing through your veins watching that movie, and you
Yeah.
just have something to root for on screen. And I think people so desperately in life, we've been sort of conditioned now to root against so many things that I think people still deep down inside want something to root for. And Top Gun Maverick became that summer.
I agree.
And people flocked to the theater and watched it multiple times in premium formats and really enjoyed it. And then, you're like, okay, well, Tom Cruise is going to be able to continue that with Mission Impossible. And then it got buried by Oppenheimer and Barbie, that whole Barbieheimer, whatever it is,
Barbenheimer.
Barbenheimer. It ended up completely overshadowing Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, which has now just been changed to Dead Reckoning because
Right.
they're not going to go Part 2. So, anyway, Tom Cruise, no doubt he has multiple franchises, and they're talking about a Days of Thunder sequel.
Yeah, I'll be there for it.
Locked in for that one?
Yeah.
Strapped in?
I feel like he'd make most people's top 5 too. Or,
Yeah.
or, I think he'd be in a lot of those lists.
Okay, I'm looking at your top 5 here. Number 5, Sylvester Stallone. Number 4, Daniel Craig, really the wild card
I
of the
know.
group.
I know.
Because mine is the Bond movies.
I like to keep you on your toes, but he made 5 of them. You know,
I know, but 2.5 of them were good.
I like all of them.
That's fine. Daniel Craig there at the number 4 spot. Clint Eastwood at number 3. Tom Cruise at number 2. That only leaves one spot remaining.
Yeah.
And I'd like to go ahead and get into your number 1 spot here.
Can I give a couple of honorable mentions?
Can we do it
first?
after
Yes,
you
we
get to your
can.
number 1? Like
Yeah.
who barely missed the cut? Because I think we got to get to number 1 here.
Well, let's get to number 1. And that was the easiest part of this. Number 1's Harrison Ford. And not only is he Indiana Jones and not only is he Han Solo, but he's also Jack Ryan and he's also Dr. Richard Kimball. So there are more good action movies from Tom Cruise, but the highs of Harrison Ford and what he brought to those roles in a way that no one else could have done what he did as well as he did. And so Star Wars is primarily science fiction, but they're also action movies, and especially his character involved in a lot of action parts. And he's my favorite character, in other than maybe Darth Vader in the original movies. Even something like Force Awakens, which has a lot of like that whole trilogy has a lot of problems. He was the best part. He was great in it. And then you have a whole other trilogy, because I'm not even going to get into the other two, of this perfect trilogy that I had in this VHS. Like it sold all 3 together in a collector's case, of the Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, and The Last Crusade. Your favorite of the 3 is Temple of Doom, which was maybe my favorite when I was a kid. My favorite now, believe it or not, is The Last Crusade. I love it. I love that movie. But if you were going to say, name me one action movie that defines the genre, it's Raiders of the Lost Ark. Hands down. That is the ultimate action movie. And he's the ultimate action star. He's handsome. Has this kind of like debonair quality, but he's, you also buy him completely in a fist fight. He has enough little bit of vulnerability because he's not huge. And so he can go toe to toe and he's punching out, or also he's like, I don't have time for this and your swords. Boom.
Okay, you've made your case. You failed, I believe you failed, unless I don't recall. You failed to mention Air Force One, I believe.
Well, I'm getting to that.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
those are the 3 big roles. Obviously the 2 big roles, Han Solo and Indiana Jones. But again, multiple people have played Jack Ryan. I love Patriot games, and especially I love Clear and Present Danger. Clear and Present Danger is one of my favorite movies. Fighting for that number 1 spot of my favorite movie of all time, which would include Good, Bad, and the Ugly, Robert Redford and Jeremiah Johnson, would be The Fugitive. I love The Fugitive. I've seen The Fugitive 1,000 times. The Fugitive at one point was on TV just about every other day.
Still is.
Turn on TV and Fugitive would be. It was on recently. I've watched a good portion of it within the last month.
I feel like it's on AMC every week.
I think that's right. I think it was AMC
and TNT.
Yeah.
I feel like.
It's a fantastic film.
So
It was the first film I ever bought on DVD.
You've got that. You've got a one-off like Air Force One, and he doesn't have in that genre at all, and maybe just in anything. There is no question about it. At the turn of the century, really, actually, post Air Force One, I think you do see a pretty good decline where there are more misses than hits for Harrison Ford. And you do see him pop up in some non-action roles that he's good in. but he doesn't have Tom Cruise's longevity in that regard. But the highs are so high, and he just exemplifies the genre so perfectly. And he's funny. He's likable. He's easy to root for. You want him to get the girl. He's somehow relatable in a way that, like a Stallone is harder sometimes to relate to, or anyone that you know, a lot of the people that are in that genre wouldn't have that quality that Harrison Ford has. And I think he's an underrated actor. I think he's a really good actor.
It's not really brawn that makes Harrison Ford
Right.
someone that you gravitate towards.
Right.
It's the whatever the story struggle is, you're bought in that you're rooting for that guy.
Yes.
You know, which is what makes a movie like K-19 The Widowmaker so difficult to watch, because
Yeah.
he's basically playing a bad guy in that, but also an action star, but also he's a Russian with a bad accent.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's really not a good movie. So me and you probably have the same number one. I mean,
Okay.
I'm between two people, but the other person, not even on your list.
Well, maybe they're in their honorable mentions. So I'm
Do you know who I'm talking
how old
about?
am I? Yeah, I think I do. I'm 46. I'll be 47 this year. So Harrison Ford was, the guy as a kid. So let's get to honorable mentions. Can we do that?
Please, because there's one that needs to be addressed that is missing from this list in a
Yeah,
big way.
I'm thinking you're thinking of what I think you're thinking of is Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had him in it, and then I love those James Bond movies so much. I'd put him at 6. And so
You can't blame Daniel Craig for this fully, though, because you have Daniel Craig at number
it's true.
4.
Yeah.
So you could have had Schwarzenegger there at number 5 even.
Yeah.
So you got
I picked Stallone over Schwarzenegger. I struggle with post P2 Schwarzenegger a little bit.
really.
Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot there. I thought Eraser was okay. I thought Terminator 3 was kind of okay, actually. There was a lot of misses in there. Now, T2, love it. Masterpiece, one of the best movies of the decade. And that's far and away my favorite movie of his. I believe you'll find on this board that's in front of me, which is one of the most fascinating things I've ever seen in my life, Last Action Hero. Saw it in the theater, not a fan, me, much like the rest of the world. There it is in DVD form. Looks like a nice copy, too, of Last Action Hero. Did not like Last Action Hero. Yeah, I'm sorry. I did like Kindergarten Cop. So he was a guy that did do well in comedy, like Stallone couldn't do. And Kindergarten Cop's a comedy, but it's an action movie in a lot of ways too. There's a lot of action in Kindergarten Cop.
There is.
He's great, and I love that movie. Obviously, you have Predator, which is going to be high on everyone's list.
Conan.
Commando, Red Dawn, Raw Deal.
Total Recall.
Oh yeah, that's a real high one. Total Recall's
Running Man.
Running Man. Total Recall might be second behind T2 for me, for Schwarzenegger.
I am shocked. See, if you were to do a bracket, easy number 1 seed.
I think he would be in almost everybody's top 5, and I think a lot of people would have him at 1.
You don't have any apologies about keeping him off of your list, though. Like, I'm saying that's fine.
The list is the list.
The list is
He's
the list.
right. Oh, he just
I know,
missed
but
it.
you bumped him
Well, if we do this
for 2.5 good James Bond movies.
if we do a repeat of this topic next year, maybe he's in it. This is how I was feeling this week.
His filmography's not getting better.
It's not, but I may see something I hadn't seen in a while
Oh,
and then say, oh, I don't have him on there. I do want to mention, we talked about the Bourne series. I want to mention Matt Damon. I really like all of those movies. I thought they were all well made. I thought he was really good in them. And had he chose to do that, I think he could have been a very good, much in the mold of Tom Cruise, a very good action star. He just didn't go that route. Another one that fits that bill even more so, I think you know that you and I share the same affinity for the 1989 Tim Burton film Batman.
mhm.
Michael Keaton could have absolutely been an action star had he chose to do that. Not a big guy, all that stuff like that. Tom Cruise is not a big guy at all.
No, Tom
Right?
Cruise is like 5'4",
Yeah.
but he has such star power that camera crews just change the angles up to make him look taller.
Michael Keaton was a baffling choice for people, right? It was summer going into 5th grade, and Batman fever was real. The anticipation for that movie, the branding of that movie, the whole thing, it was just like massive for me. And at the time, if you would ask at the end of 1989, Ush, what's your all-time favorite movie? I probably would have said Batman, and it's still really high on my list. He could have been a great action star, I think, if he chose to. He's a great actor. He's super funny. He's charismatic, so he could have done that had he chose to go that route. There's a lot of guys that were big in that genre that I never got into. I never got into Van Damme. I never got into Steven Seagal, although I like hearing about what an absolute weirdo he is and how everyone hates him. That's fascinating. I think generally considered the worst Saturday Night Live host of all time. Jason Statham, I've seen him in stuff. Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg's a good actor in a good role. He's done a lot of bad movies. We're talking about Jodie Foster before, Tyler, about how if you look, you're going to have so many great movies versus so few not so great. Mark Wahlberg's going to be the opposite.
Oh yeah, he doesn't say no to a role.
So, like, you watch Mark Wahlberg in The Departed, and you're like, "This guy's my favorite of all time," or
Yeah.
in Boogie Nights or something like that. But Mark Wahlberg's made so many bad movies. But like something like The Italian Job, like Mark Wahlberg, like that's perfectly fine. Like I like that. So those were a few that came to mind. Like Burt Reynolds could be that. Smoking the Bandit's like a comedy action type thing.
Cop and a half.
And obviously the Tim Melton beloved Cop and a Half. Who are some others, and especially maybe from the chat that they're bringing up?
Keanu would have been my number one.
Yeah, and I've never seen. This is not going to go over well. I've never seen a John Wick movie.
It actually goes over better than if you'd said you'd seen them all and you didn't have Keanu on.
No,
the
because
list.
I'm sure I would like them, and I liked Speed. I thought Speed was a very
Speed's
fun
solid.
movie.
Yeah.
And I thought he was good in that. I love
Matrix.
Point Break.
I don't
right?
love The Matrix. I'm personally not a Matrix
Yeah,
guy.
that never appealed to me that
But
much.
It's a tentpole action movie
Yes.
of the past 25 years.
It is.
So
I think
it changed
again
everything.
he's going to make a lot of people's top 5.
Yeah.
On the strength of John Wick alone. But yeah, Speed, Point Break, great. He's good in them.
Yeah.
Who else?
Bruce Willis.
Yeah. Someone I considered.
Wouldn't have made my personal list, but
You take Die Hard out in the action genre. What are you going with? Hudson Hawk?
I mean,
Maybe Pulp Fiction. I
Yeah,
guess,
I
but
mean,
that's not really an action.
it's
movie,
not.
but
He's-
his part is an action.
It
part.
is, and he's great in it. And it was so unusual to see him in that kind of role.
but still, can you really make the argument if you take John McClane out of Bruce Willis's filmography? What do you have when you have Daniel Craig at number 4?
That's true. It's a very good point. That's you're using mine. I guess I just like those movies more than Die Hard. I actually really like Die Hard 3.
Listen to me.
I think Die Hard 3, which is Die Hard with a Vengeance, is a great action movie. Great action movie. And Jeremy Irons is a great bad guy in it. Samuel L. Jackson's great in it. Samuel L. Jackson. He's a guy.
I love Casino Royale. I love Skyfall.
Yeah.
Really do. But those two films alone, I don't think trump Schwarzenegger as an action star. But your list has some real big highs. I was actually preparing to be very hurt
Okay.
that you didn't include Harrison Ford. And so that when Harrison Ford was number 1, I was like, okay, that makes me feel good about that. But then I'm like, wow, Schwarzenegger not making the cut is a shock to me. But
I can quote Fugitive all day long. I love Harrison Ford.
it's a great movie, great experience. I do want to bring up this Last Action Hero as we have a segment of physicality here. This is
Really
a
nice looking.
4K Ultra HD Steelbook edition of Last Action Hero. This movie famously got destroyed at the box office by,
Jurassic Park.
correct, summer of 1993. They marketed this as the big ticket, meaning go ahead, be prepared, because you've got Arnold Schwarzenegger coming in here, and he is going to be the big draw of June of 1993. And I believe 2 weeks earlier, Jurassic Park opened and absolutely trounced this movie. Nobody went to go see this compared to Jurassic Park, and it was looked at as a massive box office bomb for Arnold Schwarzenegger and really for the action genre. And
His kid doesn't recognize him in that movie.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Um,
He I think it's at the end of the movie. He's dressed up as Turbo Man, and he like lifts the visor, and the kid's like, "Dad!"
so
It's
you're
like it's not Arnold's
so you're
voice.
talking about Jingle All the Way.
Oh yeah, movie.
However, I love Jingle All the Way as well.
Of
Dang
course you do.
But you you are talking about Jingle All the Way.
What was the big song from Last Action Hero? Do you remember?
Yes, it was AC/DC Big Gun,
Big Gun, number 1.
which is actually the music video for that included in the bonus features.
There you go.
Yes, I watched this last night, went through all the bonus features, the featurette, the Big Gun music video. The Big Gun music video is awful, by the way.
Yeah, I
It's
can imagine.
Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, forgive me here. I love AC/DC, but I don't know a ton about the band, really.
Right.
But the guy who wears the hat and the shorts and does Angus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Schwarzenegger in the music video puts on the hat and the shorts and starts doing
Yeah.
the Angus
Ugh.
walk, and it is atrocious. Now, maybe they were like, hey, he could be fun and that's what we want to showcase. But it looks really bad, and it did not do anything to sell tickets to this movie.
Well, what were they trying to recapture when they did that, though? Do you remember?
Well, it was the performance of the song for the music video that was going to be the main featured song in
So
the
they
movie.
did the same thing in Terminator 2 with You Could Be Mine,
Mhm.
Guns N' Roses, and he's in the
Okay.
video as the Terminator.
So they were trying
You
to
Could Be
recreate
Mine.
that magic.
Yep.
It didn't work this time.
Yeah.
But
I would like to hold this copy.
do-
I've never,
I love
I
this
don't
movie.
know about when y'all talk about steel book. This is really nice.
Yeah, that looks so good on the shelf.
I only hold clean digital media on this show. I don't hold soiled, disgusting digital media. I'll
Well,
leave that for the EGs of the world.
Physical
Hey,
media, Ush.
Physical media.
Sorry, Tyler was going to beat me to it there.
What did I
I'd say
say?
you're
You
not
said
holding
digital
any
media.
digital
Did you?
media.
No, that's true. Yeah. I also admire and I like that you are into physical media because I'm like the rest of them. I'm like the unwashed masses. It was just like, well, I'm done with my tapes. I'm on to CDs, and then I'm done with my CDs. Throw them out. It's all digital. And then you've mentioned several times you don't own it. You pay for the rights to have it right now, and
Mhm.
there's nothing that I do have some vinyl. We do have some DVDs left, and there's a pretty good chance that I'm gonna maybe bring some of those here to Meltdonia and see if they're accepted. 'Cause they
Create-
would be in good shape, and they're not dirty.
You need to create a Ush mystery box that we open up on the air.
I can absolutely do that. I have to make sure there's enough there that's non-kids, but I think we kept enough in there. I hope. I'll look.
Run some kid stuff too.
There'll have to be some kid stuff, and there'll probably be some stuff from my wife, which is pretty bad. It's like Dunaway movies.
Oh, okay. Well, we can donate them to him.
Yeah.
No, there's no better feeling than once again having a movie you love displayed in a way that you
Yeah.
love. Because it immediately you look at it and you just feel something tingly.
Well, yeah, it's the same way with music. CD towers were a big thing, and your VHS, then DVD collection was a big thing. How it was displayed and how you had it all out, and it is superior. And I don't care enough to now start buying them. I'm too practical. I gotta pay for college and cars and insurance and
Yeah.
things. But I wish that I had not only kept the ones I had, all the ones that I had, but also continued to buy the ones that I really liked. Because I only bought the ones that I really liked.
Yeah.
Really liked. And so I do think it's a better practice. And I'm talking about movies, and also I'm talking about music.
Yeah, same here. I have a vinyl collection, I have a 4K and a DVD and a Blu-ray collection, and I'm really thrilled with how that's being presented, how it's growing, and how many other people in my life now are saying like, "Hey, I've gotten back into the swing of things and it's a lot of fun." Like, you remember, Ush, what it was like on a Friday night to go to Blockbuster, right?
Yeah, I remember the anticipation of before you go.
Like, we cannot properly explain to a younger generation that maybe has no idea because on the click of a button, they've got 5,000 titles to choose between, and nothing means anything if you can have everything. Does that make sense?
Nor can I explain the look that you get from your parents when they realize that for like the third time in a row, you've gotten the 1989 Royal Rumble.
Right.
All these to
You know what
choose
it's like.
from.
Like,
It was a video stores. Um, it was absolutely fantastic.
walking in
It was fun to do on a date. Like you go to a date and not know what you're going to get, and after dinner you're perusing the aisles to figure out which movie you were going to rent. That was fun.
and getting that last copy of something,
Oh, come on.
you just feel charged
And
up.
even thinking on those big movies, I wonder how many rows they're going to have when this comes to Blockbuster.
Bingo.
You know what I mean? When
Yeah,
those
yeah.
first came out and they take up a whole wall
And the first
of
time
like a Jurassic Park or something like that.
it's also the first time you see it physically anywhere.
Yeah.
So you don't know what the box is gonna look like. I mean, this was
Well, going back to Batman, where when it came out, I remember my brother and I, like, we got it, on VHS immediately. And I remember just that, when you saw what the case looked like, and the iconic thing was you had it was just, there was no writing on it, it was just the logo, and it didn't even fit all the way on the box. There was something about that was super cool too, where you didn't even get the whole logo, you just got the majority of it.
absolutely. I love the video store experience. It was my dream job was to work at a video store.
Yeah.
And then I get old enough to work and video stores shut down. And I'm like,
And packaging is cool, and like and especially in records, like you pull out, and it'll have printed lyrics, and there's artwork, and it's really nice. I have a friend his vinyl collection is enormous, and mine is pretty paltry.
I opened up last night a 3 LP edition, special edition of the Batman soundtrack
Yeah,
from the 2022 Robert Pattinson movie. And the artwork in there is incredible. I got to show it to Tyler at some point because he's going to geek out over just how beautiful the thing looks, is just with just the packaging of it. Um, but yeah, I love my physical media collection. I'm glad we've been able to share our physical media collections that we're building here on the show with you guys. And, just try it 1 week. Try replicating the movie store experience by getting your hands on a DVD, even if it's going to Walmart and buying a $5 DVD or something, and go home. Don't scroll through endless screens trying to find something to watch. Pick that one thing, sit down, watch it, go through the special features, enjoy the experience, because I'm telling you that it'll activate things in you that you don't even know exist. And I've been going through that. Last Action Hero did that for me last night, and I have been getting so much more enjoyment out of going back to physical media as my primary way to enjoy movies at home compared to all these streaming services where they start playing the movie before you can even hit select. Drives me insane. So, anyway, a little bit of a mini rant there from me. But Ush, I appreciate your passion here for the list that you've created. It's a controversial one, I
yeah.
think.
Controversy creates cash, Tim. I'm looking at the list and I'm seeing all these movies, and I see all these other actors that are in them. That it's like, oh, like we were talking before the show went on about Inside Man. It's like, oh, Denzel. I love Denzel. He could have made the list. And you see like X-Men. Oh, Hugh Jackman. Oh, Will Smith, and this, and Mel Gibson and Patriot. And all these. There's lots of ways that you can go, and that's the nice thing about lists. They are, your list.
Tyler, do you want to be the one to cross out Last Action Hero up there? It's underneath Galaxy Quest and Goodfellas. Over on the
Uh,
right.
I'll let you do it, Tim.
You know what? I don't feel like I have the penmanship to do
I
it.
would love
I
to.
definitely
I would
don't.
love to do.
Okay, Ush is going to go for it.
Yeah.
Ush, head on up to the big board. This is the way we'll sign off. While Ush is going up here, I'll remind you that if you want to increase your bankroll, you need to head to MyBookie at mybookie.ag. You can bet on anything, anywhere, anytime. That's mybookie.ag. Make sure you use promo code next round for that first time deposit bonus. You went with the blue for the cross out.
Yeah, I liked how Titanic's in blue and it's
Oh,
marked out in red.
I got it.
And
But
Tommy is in black. It's marked out in red, and so
EG, when she gets back from Canada, EG is going to lose her mind that you chose to strike out in blue compared to red. She takes that very seriously.
she can say whatever she wants to me, and I'll put her in
Gotcha.
place.
I don't disagree that that's a good look there. I just worry about what EG, how she will handle it emotionally. All right. That's going to do it for us here on the Meltdown. Thank you so much for making us a part of your daily routine. Make sure you hit that little notification bell so you know when we go live and we can be right here with you. Appreciate everybody in the chat today making us a part of your routine. And we hope to see you back again for the Fun Friday edition tomorrow. Jeff will be in studio with us. We're looking forward to that. And we may have a little bit of a physical media swap happening here on the show. That is tomorrow, 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern. Make sure you're tuned in.